Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. This episode is the second part of the introduction to the story Pixie and the Green Book Mystery. In the first episode, Pixie had had a really crummy day at school and was looking forward to going to the library with her mom. The smell of honeysuckles hanging in the archway and paper met her nose as the library door opened. This was Pixie's home away from home. She was happy here. When they arrived, Pixie skipped off to the children's section, and her mom went to look for garden books. Pixie collapsed onto a large yellow pillow that almost swallowed her up. She looked around, and something was different. There was no one else there, and Pixie felt like she was being watched. The sun streamed in through the large stained glass window overlooking the children's section. Pixie followed it with her eyes. The sunbeam stopped over a dark green leather book. She had never seen this book before. Pixie had read most everything and explored every nook of the library. A mysterious, glowing book was something new. So she rose up from the squishy pillow and walked over to check it out. It stood upright like a tall soldier. She pulled the book from the shelf. It was so massive, she dropped it on the floor. A puff of dust swirled in the air. It tickled her face. "Whoops," she giggled and sneezed. "Shh, shh." A new librarian was staring at her from behind the checkout counter. Even he was unfamiliar. The usual librarian, Miss Rita Good, was nowhere in sight. Pixie saw the title, Catastrophes, Calamities, and Chaos, was glowing. These were very big words for an almost 9-year-old girl, so she decided to ask the new library gentleman what they were. The librarian snarled at her. "Don't you know, little girl?" Pixie shook her head. He glared through the bottom of his glasses and growled. "That's what's wrong with kids these days. Don't read enough. One of these days, there will be no books to read." The librarian was dressed in teacher clothes and smelled like stale popcorn. He was bald except for a tuft of silver hair above each ear. And his pasty white skin made him look like he had never seen the sun. Pixie was curious why a line went through the middle of his glasses, but did not want to upset him any more. So she returned to the pillow and opened the book. After studying the first picture, she began to read. Once upon a time, Princess Cinderella was walking through the woods when she came across a white rabbit that was in a panic about being late. "Oh, my whiskers, I'm late!" gasped the white rabbit. She jumped when someone tapped her on the shoulder. A girl who looked to be about her age stood with her arms crossed. She had wavy blonde hair and was wearing a blue dress with puffy sleeves. Pixie thought she had seen this girl before, but couldn't remember where. "What are you reading?" the girl asked. "It's a story about Cinderella, and she's talking to a rabbit that won't stop looking at his pocket watch," Pixie replied. The girl glanced at the picture in the book. "There you are!" she shrieked. "Do you know whose rabbit that is?" She reached out to take the green book, but Pixie held it tight. They tugged it back and forth for a minute. "Let go," the girl said. "No," Pixie answered. "I need to see it," the girl demanded. "It's important. I know that rabbit." Pixie pulled the book out of her hands. "Okay," she said. "You can look at the picture, but I will hold it." The girl stared at the open page. Pixie watched, baffled. Where had she come from in the first place? She didn't hear the jingle of the library door before the girl appeared. "Her name is Cindy, and she's talking to my white rabbit," the girl snapped. "How dare she?" She stamped her foot. "They do not belong in that book." Then, before Pixie's eyes, the strange girl jumped into the book. "My goodness!" Pixie cried out. The librarian turned down the aisle, pushing a squeaky book cart. He hissed at Pixie to be quiet. "Close your mouth and stop yapping." His eye slits glowered at her. "Shh, and read your book." She had never seen eyes like this. They were jade green and glowed just like a cat's eyes in the dark. Pixie had to get out of sight. Clutching the green book, she moved to the teen section in the back of the library. Normally, it was full of noisy boys playing Dragon Keeper cards, but today it was empty. In the corner was a blue couch, and she raced over to it. It was mammoth. Her feet dangled, not able to reach the ground. Pixie swiftly opened the book and peered back down at the page. The girl who was standing next to her was now in the story. She was waving her finger at Cinderella, or as she had called her, Cindy. She looked out of sorts. Pixie started again. Once upon a time, Princess Cinderella was walking through the woods when she came across a white rabbit. He seemed to be in a panic about being late for something. Then, suddenly, Alice in Wonderland appeared. "Why is my rabbit here with you?" Alice demanded. Cinderella's mouth curved up nervously. "The rabbit says he is lost and he is late. I am lost too. Do you know where our storybooks are?" Cinderella whispered. Pixie shook her head. Of course. That's why the girl seemed familiar. Alice in Wonderland. She had just reread that book last week. Pixie pinched her hand, thinking she was dreaming. "Ouch," she said under her breath. "I am awake and now have a red mark to prove it." She turned the crinkly page. "I can talk for myself, you know," the White Rabbit said crossly. "Well, in that case, you better go and find our books so that we can get back into our stories," Alice replied. The White Rabbit looked down at his feet and his hands began to shake. I can't," he said. "He might catch me." Alice and Cinderella looked at each other. "The book guardian," they said in unison. Wait, interrupted Pixie. "Who is the book guardian?" 3 heads popped out of the open page and Pixie fell backwards. Cindy, Alice, and the White Rabbit pointed to the librarian. And before she could stop herself, Pixie blurted, "Why are you afraid of him?" Getting caught could mean big trouble, Alice said sharply. She continued, when the book guardian puts the glowing green book on the shelf, fairy tales come to life. That's when he tries capturing us characters inside the book. And once inside, we forget where our books are shelved. Cindy tried to speak, but Alice kept on. The guardian's clever. He knows book characters fill up pages with their words, and the more they talk, the more pages are added to the green book. Let me add that climbing out of pages is exhausting, Cindy put in. But if characters don't escape the book before it stops glowing, they turn into numbers in the back of the book. And their storybooks disappear. The White Rabbit finished. Why is he doing this? Pixie asked. She had lots of questions, but time was running out. There's no time to explain. We have to return to our stories before the book stops glowing, answered Alice. The White Rabbit looked at his pocket watch. Yes, the little hand is almost on the 9. Oh my! Pixie did not want to see her new friends turn into numbers in the mysterious book. It's times like this we need the 7 dwarfs, Alice chimed in. Pixie looked around and didn't see any dwarfs. And how could the 7 dwarfs help at a time like this? It fell silent, and the cart noise grew louder. This meant the guardian was near.